By the way, I agree with you about, you know, I'm not a fan of the gold standard either, because that basically is just enabling central bank currency to circulate once again. What we have to do is...
It gives power to the central banks.
It does. It gives power to the governments to, again, you know, debase the currency relative to gold. What we should really be doing is just enable gold itself to circulate as currency and get central banks, you know, out of the picture. My view has been that, you know, people say that gold is the barbarous relic, but I wrote an essay on this a few years ago explaining why central banks are the barbarous relic. In fact, when we first met at the GATA conference in Dawson City, that was the theme of my presentation.
Gold Rush 21.
Yeah, Gold Rush 21 in August of 2005. The theme at my presentation then was that central banks are the barbarous relic, and that the sooner we recognize that and go back to a free market monetary system, a true free market monetary system, one that's enables people to contract with one another on a private basis, and private contract rules supreme over government contract. And secondly, you know, governments don't interfere with the market, have a free market unfettered by government interference. And government's role is to basically maintain the rule of law and ensure that property rights are protected. That's the way.
And the common defense.
And
those
exactly.
are the three things that
which is what the Constitution was basically written for.
Yeah.
You know, common market with a common defense.
Too. I just fear that that's not the direction that we're going currently. I have a feeling that in the U.S. the economy is going to continue getting worse because of we're reading from the script of the 20s and 30s right now.
Yeah.
It's a replay. I mean, we've seen this play before. It's just got different actors this time.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because this morning I spent 2 hours at the Bundesbank Museum, and I highly recommend this museum to anybody who comes to Frankfurt. In fact, it's probably worth coming to Frankfurt just to spend some time in that museum.
Yes.
Because if you really want to learn about money and currency, just go through the Bundesbank Museum for a couple of hours and read all of the examples of German monetary history. It's so clearly explained. They have videos, they have photos, pictures, all types of things, and you'll learn a lot in 2 hours about how money and currency really works in the modern economy. And you will also see the importance of gold and silver and stable money in terms of you know, achieving the standards of living and the lifestyle we all want to live.
What amazes me is if you're, you know, they wrote all of those, you know, there's a display of a coin or of hyper-inflated currency that, you know, with trillion mark bills or whatever, and they'll have a little couple of paragraphs talking about it, and it's all an argument for free market gold and silver.
Exactly.
It's like every single thing that they say about central banking is an argument against central banking.
Yeah.
If you're coming to it from like our point of view, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, you know, the Bundesbank from 1950 up until the 1980s was very serious about its role in terms of maintaining a stable currency, because the people who were managing the Bundesbank then in the 50s and 60s and the 70s, they had in their living memory the monetary turmoil after the war. So they took very, very seriously to achieve a stable monetary system, because they knew the economic and political problems that would occur when money was not stable. But by the late 1980s, early 1990s, the people who were running the Bundesbank no longer had in their living memory the experiences after the Second World War, because they were just too young to have lived through it. And as a consequence, you started seeing a little bit of moving away. And now with the ECB, I think it's quite clear that the ECB is not the Bundesbank, and don't see the role of stable money quite as clearly as the Bundesbank did, particularly in the 60s and the 70s.